Welcome to the Stop Doing Stupid Stuff podcast with your hosts, Tim Keefe and Andreas Wieman from Transform CX. In today's episode, Fifth Gear Burnout, Why Your Brain Needs Boring Tasks, Tim and Andreas tackle a fascinating Wall Street Journal article by Callum Borchers that challenges the conventional wisdom about AI automating our boring work tasks. While everyone's rushing to hand off mundane activities to AI so we can focus on high-level thinking, our hosts ask a crucial question. Can humans actually operate in fifth gear all day long? Tim and Andreas dive deep into the surprising psychological and cognitive benefits of those routine tasks we're so eager to eliminate. From Admiral McRaven's advice about making your bed every morning to the creative breakthroughs that happen during a walk or while doing the dishes, they explore how our brains need these mental breaks to process complex problems subconsciously. The conversation reveals why eliminating all busy work might actually hurt our productivity, creativity, and well-being. The hosts also tackle the critical gap in most AI adoption strategies, the human quality assurance layer. Andreas shares how he uses AI to speed up data analysis while still maintaining the cognitive engagement needed to catch errors and anomalies. It's not about AI versus humans. It's about finding the right balance where AI handles volume, while humans provide the creative thinking, validation, and those essential mental breaks that keep us functioning at our best. Let's dive in.
Hi, everybody. This is Tim Keefe with Transform CX, and I'm here with my good friend, cellmate, co-conspirator, and pretty much a joint nut job here at Transform CX and Stop Doing Stupid Stuff. And welcome to another Stupid Stuff podcast. So, Andreas Wieman, Mr. Sir, what are we talking about today?
Well, first of all, it's the Stop Doing Stupid Stuff podcast, not the Stupid Stuff podcast. So
Oh, my
let's
God. All right.
let's make sure we
It's
intro
earlier
that.
than usual. All right.
No, you're good. You're good. We got a great article that was sent to us by one of our good friends, and it's something both of us are really, really passionate about because it talks about people and process and technology. Process, technology, and data, which is our kind of foundation for everything. So the article is called "The Downside of Using AI for All Those Boring Tasks at Work" in the Wall Street Journal by Callum Borchers. And I think like a quick summary of it, it basically says, hey, there's a lot of potential in AI tools, but a lot of the AI tools can do pretty mundane things that get done today that frees up your time to go focus on strategy and big thinking, right? But what does that do as humans? What does that do to us? Can we move and shift gears, right? Actually, you and I love car analogies, right? And learning how to drive cars, and people that don't know how to drive cars, teaching them, just using that analogy. Imagine going from first gear to fifth gear and just staying in fifth gear the entire time. Can the human handle that cognitive load, that thinking? And
Wow.
what does that do to them? And so that's kind of what this article is
Yeah.
about. So, Tim, what do you think about it?
Well, I think what I liked about it was it kind of got down to some pretty elementary things that, you know, one of the things that they talk about a lot, when you talk about how people can manage their day, manage stress, manage their ability to think more effectively, one of the big ones is that ability to step away from the problem, go for a walk. Why? What are you doing when you do that, right? So walking falls into one of those, your body, you don't have to think about it. Most of the time, you don't have to think about it. So, you go for a walk and you get a chance to disconnect your brain, your active brain, from the problem, but you get to engage your subconscious in the problem. And how many of us have ever come away from a long walk or a workout or, come out of the shower going, oh, that's the answer right there. And because it's your subconscious has been banging away on it. The other thing, and I think that comes with that kind of, I would call busy work, right? Now, there's a line between busy work and drudgery, but I mean, busy work where you get to step away and, okay, I'm going to go do these tasks that I know I can get done and whatever they might be, right? They're maybe fairly routine. It could be getting timesheets approved. They could be finishing up your travel expenses, whatever. I mean, there's stuff sometimes we don't want to do because they're like routine, but you're doing them, and it gets, again, when you get it done, there's that little dopamine hit of got it done. Now I don't need to worry about it. It's off my plate. I move on to the next one. And, as humans, we're not just, to your point, we don't work very well when we're in fifth gear all the time. And if we're going to depend on the human for that bridge between what we're getting from AI tools, and let's just say, it depends, right? What you're going to get as an output from an AI tool. It depends on the LLM you use. It depends on whether or not you're going to ring fence that prompt and that data set. It depends on a lot of things. They're not. They take creative thinking. They take somebody really thinking about what outcome are they looking for, and what structures do they want. What's the actor, what's the intent, what's the methodology. I mean, I'm just using one of hundreds of acronyms that are out there to help drive prompt behavior. But again, I think you've got to have that opportunity to allow the active brain to disengage and allow the subconscious to thing. And you also, I think you got to allow for successes in there. I got it done. I can look at something and I say I got it done, even if it's a pile of paper, or if you're in the trades, it's getting some of the at the end of the day or the beginning of the day, getting the job site ready or cleaned up. To me, falls into that satisfactory. I have done, and I can look at it. Everything's put away. I know everybody's not wired that way, but for me, that allows for that moment of success. And there was a really great commencement speech. I'm sorry, you probably were ready to speak there, but just real quick one. Admiral McRaven did a commencement speech at University of Texas several years ago. If you ever want to look at it, it's very inspiring, very good. Admiral McRaven was the senior, what they call the Bull SEAL, also commander of Special Operations Services. And he was talking about his experience in BUDS. And at the end of his speech, he said, look, if you got to do a couple of things, but one thing I learned is make your bed every day. And everybody said, why? And he goes, it gives you that first thing, that first piece of accomplishment in the day that I got something done. It was pretty powerful for a guy who does what he does for a living. But it's that little piece of success. And as humans, it goes back to sometimes it doesn't have to be complicated to just make people feel a little better, to have gained a little bit of success. And I think it ties very much to our gratitude approach, which is, acknowledging those little things. And just because they're little things doesn't mean aren't valuable to the person who did it.
Yeah.
So,
Well, no, agreed. I mean, I look at it like two different ways. You have the biological side, which is what we were talking about around pushing. My thinking is always like computing capacity, but I'm talking about a human, right? So cognitive load and cognitive processing, I should probably say. But on the biological side, it's leveraging each of those pieces cognitively and balancing it out. So you have that subconscious going on. This is where habit formation is so important, because once the habit is formed, it pushes into subconscious. So that way you're not leveraging or utilizing so much of that higher thinking capacity, right? Task positive network versus default mode network, subconscious versus conscious. But then you have the psychological side, that exactly what you're talking about with that commencement speech, of an individual, not a collective, but an individual getting up and saying, all right, maybe I slept all right. I'm worrying about this yesterday. Let me make my bed. That's it. I got something done today. And you're starting your entire day off with, I got something done. Now, the
right,
degree of variation by person is going to be varied greatly, right? But at least having some sort of routine that says, yeah, I got something done today, and
right.
starting off on that more positive note, I would say from a probability perspective, you have a lot higher statistical chance of being more positive throughout the rest of the day, or carrying that over and having that kind of ripple effect into
Yep.
other individuals. And that's where I think like, look, we're talking about a particular subject here that we're explaining it very, very directly. It's complicated. It's people. And when you introduce more people, more personalities, et cetera, it gets even more complicated, because everybody's been through their own stuff, and you got to figure out how can you communicate effectively so the level of comprehension is high, they understand it, and then they go act on it, they adopt it, right? And so, oh, go ahead. I can, apparently I can't talk for 10 minutes straight
No,
without,
no, no. I
but
wasn't
no,
trying to
no,
interrupt you. I was
go
just
for
kind of
it.
No, I
I'm
was
just messing
agreeing.
with you
Yeah,
anyway.
I was
Go for
agreeing with
it.
you some of that stuff because again, it gives you that little win, and sometimes people are weird about it. I remember I was working out of a company's office in Manhattan for a while, and I'd usually be the first one in the office. And they had the cleaning service would come in during the day, right? And at the end of the day, they'd throw all the coffee cups and crap in they had a dishwasher, imagine, and they'd run the dishwasher overnight. And if came in the first one in the morning, it was just like, I wouldn't even think twice about it. Just like, oh, okay, I just put everything away, right? Throw the utensils in a drawer. Not a big
Right.
deal. It's 3 or 4 minutes, but you kind of got like, okay, while my coffee is making, I got this done. Otherwise, what would
Right.
I'm doing? I'm standing there staring at the wall. And
Well,
even though you don't have to
th-
think about it, yeah, go ahead.
no, but think about it. Think about, like, I want to emphasize this to the listeners. Think about how powerful that is because now you have a feeling of accomplishment, right? And then you can also look at it and associate that with multitasking. You're completing, dual responsibilities right there in one motion. And if you look at it like that, that's why I think the psychological framework is so important at the individual level and getting people, some people will come in, observers will say, well, you're just there waiting for your coffee to get made. It's coffee you're going to drink and it's dishes you probably use. So yeah, you're kind of obligated to put it away. That's not the right mental outlook to have on it or projection to have on it. The projection is exactly as you just described it. And that can be so psychologically powerful to individuals that need that positive
Yeah.
reinforcement, even if it's self-positive reinforcement. I think that's extremely critical and important as well.
Yeah. Well, and it's, it could go on and on and on. I mean, it's the person who, at the end of a meeting, walks around, puts the chairs back, and just kind of throws any crap in the trash can, with the like, leave the room in this condition you would want to find it. And yet, that's not that common. And I'm going to say yes. When I was at the academy, I got some encouragement on how to do that. But just from a standpoint of just being, and what does it take, right? To walk around the table, push the chairs in, and sweep any debris off into a trash can. And people would say, well, we have cleaners, or maybe you don't. Nobody has cleaners, at least not here in the U.S. anymore, to do that for us. And you're just saying, well, the next group will do it. Like, well, okay, sure, I get it. We're all busy, but we're also supposedly working together in an environment. Anyway, we all have our own biases about this, but I love the concept of the article, right? Which is that if we take away all the mundane or all the stuff that we do from muscle memory, and we just put all of it into to your point, I'm just thinking about that movie Ford versus Ferrari and what happens to those cars when they're running at 7,000 RPM,
Yeah.
in the 24-hour Le Mans. Bad stuff happens because things explode and burn out and blah, blah, blah. And even when you're designed to do that. And yeah, maybe AI will get to the point where it can run in fifth gear at 7,000 RPM full time. I think we've got a ways to go for that. I think for these mundane things, it's good, but I also think we need to allow for people to have, and it's the right balance. I'm going to be really clear. There's drudgery, and then there's mundane tasks, or let's call it busy work. Are more muscle memory tasks that can be that 10 or 15 minute or 5 minute or 2 minute break that we all talk about. It's like that every 90 minutes, every article I've ever read about productivity and says you've got to stand up and give your brain a disconnect so that you can refresh. And that could be 2 or 3 minute walk
Yeah.
away, to your point. It could be box breathing, it could be do some push-ups, whatever it is for you that allows you to kind of do a little bit of a reset.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a soft reboot on your phone. You're like, oh, I get too many things open. Okay, let's shut some shit down for a bit. And oh, I probably violated our
You're
Spotify
good.
expression. But anyway, I love it. And I think it goes back to, again, I see these people here, particularly in San Francisco, talking about 996, which is, oh, the expectation is employees will work 9 to 9, 6 days a week. I think that's
Yeah,
easy
and
for
who
the person who's,
created
well, that's the
who
person.
created?
Yeah.
Yeah. That probably
Yeah.
is a CFO is like, oh yeah, we can squeeze this out of people and let me guess, it's not really going particularly well, is it?
Yeah, you get burned. And as you and I have talked about many times, Gen Z and now Gen A, they're not that kind of workforce, and you've got to be allowing people to feel that there's more to it than just grinding away. The other thing too is, often these are, let's face it, violations of the labor law. And on top of that, most of the time, these people who are putting in the 996, are you going to be part of an amazing $1 billion unicorn startup? How many of those people actually cash in as a result of that, if there is an exit.
Right.
Um,
Well, I
not
think
most of, yeah, yeah.
I think the other point and the whole point of the main gist of the article is we're trying to get AI adoption, right? And a lot of organizations are struggling with it, at least for them to articulate it very clearly on earnings calls or, elsewhere where it's leading to actual P&L improvements, right?
Hmm.
And a lot of it is focused around, high level thinking and things like that. But there is places that AI can be applied to help with mundane productivity tasks. But like we've talked about, and this is where I think the article is really good, and this is actually something I've been doing for years, and I've seen the outcomes of this, and it's been positive for me. Where yes, AI can help automate, routine things, but then also the human, the QA process in there, the bridge that can help what the article is trying to address, right? Is that if your brain is high level thinking only, you're going to get burnt out as a human. I agree with that. I concur with that hypothesis. And so, how can you QA what the AI is doing, which is another aspect that we've talked about frequently? There's not really a space for that right now. It's the AI is just going to do all this. And now everybody's complaining, well, AI hallucinates. Well, yeah, we don't have a QA. We don't have a human QA in there. And so I think if you start looking at things a little bit differently of how can you still humanize AI and introduce it to where there's still these aspects of conscious, subconscious processing, routine events occurring for the human to say, yes, I'm still looking at this data set, and me looking at this data set still allows me to process and look for anomalies and look for variances and things like that. But now it's getting done at a much quicker volume, at a good accuracy rate that's acceptable for whatever organization I'm working for. And so you're kind of serving dual purposes there where you're quality assuring the AI outputs, but the human is still looking at it and processing it. They're just processing it to a greater degree. Like me, I'm excited that I don't have to manually run a coefficient of determination in Excel or Google Sheets by myself now. That usually takes me, I don't know, depending on the data set, maybe let's say an hour. If I have the data set together and I structure the prompt correctly, it takes 5 minutes. That right there, like I'm not going to complain about that, but I'm still able to go in since I have a level of understanding and proficiency with that process. I can go in and check it and make sure it's right, which I do with every AI prompt output, by the way. I check it for accuracy to make sure it's not hallucinating or make sure it's not vying away from, my hypothesis. And if it is, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Let me go research it and educate myself and let me self-learn about some of this. But I think that's one way, humans as we try to start adopting AI, that's one way that we can probably avoid this this subconscious shifting to all conscious thinking. Like I look at it like breathing. Everybody breathes subconsciously. It's just a habit that you form that you do it without thinking. Your mind starts drifting and thinking about other stuff. Now, just sit back and imagine knowing how your body works. If you had to think about breathing and taking in a breath, taking out a breath, etc., inhale and exhaling, how much brain power would that take all day? That's kind of what we're talking about here. It's probably not the greatest example, but the most
No, it's a good
relatable
one.
example, I think. Think about just you having to think about every inhale and exhale that you take all day.
I do every time, but I'm pretty stupid, so I'm joking.
Well,
Unfortunately,
I
I
was
don't have
gonna,
to, but
well, I was gonna say you do that just so it doesn't inhibit your, you being able to talk as much as you talk.
two words, my
No, no
friend.
love lost in the 2026 relationship.
Yeah, yeah, nothing has changed. Yeah. We're
Um,
trying to stay on Spotify here. That's the only thing that's saving you at the moment. No, no.
let,
Again, I mean, let's close this out. But
yeah,
I think the point is that I think there's a couple of points here. One, with regard to AI adoption, don't be in such a rush to take away the routine stuff that can actually enable your staff to be more creative. That's, I guess, my one bullet point for me. And then the other one is really less directly from the article, but it's the power and the value of that ability to disconnect your active brain and allow your subconscious to take in by doing stuff like whether it's exercise or step away or you know iron 10 shirts. While you're doing that, your conscious brain is trying to not burn the house down, and your subconscious can process whatever business challenge or whatever you're working on, right? It could be what colors do I want to paint the rooms in my house? Those are things that you need to think about, and should, should be a result of that active and creative brain.
You know
But
what?
it takes a while of processing. Go ahead.
This whole topic, Tim, just I don't know. Well, speaking of, subconsciously processing, I think you and I, just this conversation you and I are having, we should sit down together and we should write a couple of books that include information on this subject.
Yeah,
We should
yeah.
title them something like, I don't know, like I'm shooting in the dark here, but stop doing stupid stuff and stop doing stupid stuff, soft skills that talk about, achieving theta state and I don't know, that talk about these subjects. Let's talk about it after we finish this
Yeah,
podcast.
yeah, yeah. I think we should. Maybe 8 or 9 books in the area. That'd be good. By the way, everybody, for that huge audience out there, if you don't know what we're talking about, please feel free to go to our website at sdss.global, and you can, or transformcx.com, and you can see our portfolio of books that are available on Kindle. And if you have any questions, would like to know more, maybe think of other books we should be writing, uh, feel free to let us know.
Awesome. As always, appreciate the time in the mostly one-sided conversation, but you appreciate the dialogue back and forth, and hopefully the listeners take away some good cues and get curious and experiment and try some of these things and see how they work. Let us know if you try some. As always, great to talk on the subject, Tim, and look forward to more and more people to stop doing stupid stuff.
Yeah, have a great one, everybody. Thanks, Andreas. Take care.